They've surrounded us. Human, she whispered, her voice trembling like a final breath.
Good, he growled, his eyes flashing with darkness. Now I don't even have to aim.
The night enveloped planet Karos 4. The ashen sky casting shadows over the black stone pillars. Toxic winds swept through the barren landscape, whispering tales of desolation and despair. Zaya, a female warrior with determined eyes and a red scar running along her collarbone, crouched beside a mysterious earth warrior known only as the Hunter. They paused at a dark mountain crevice, listening to the approaching footsteps of their enemies preparing to encircle them. Karos 4, once an outpost of the Galactic Alliance, had fallen into chaos. The landscape was dominated by black grasslands, eerie limestone formations, and a toxic atmosphere illuminated by the crimson light of two minor suns. Two main factions remained in this hellscape: Zaya, the warlord of the Karos warrior tribe, the Sorel people, fighting to protect the last survivors, and the Hunter, a stranger from Earth possessing advanced tactical equipment whose true intentions remained unclear to Zaya. Zaya Sorel was a formidable native leader, fierce and loyal to her village. Having lost her family in a previous civil war, her sole mission was to protect her people and find a way to end the conflict, to rebuild what was left of their civilization. The year was 2478 D.T., after the Sixth Galactic War. They were positioned in the Black Ravine of Karos 4, near the ancient Sorel fortress, where the evacuated civilians had gathered. More than 200 Sorel tribal warriors were exhausted after numerous battles. Zaya and the Hunter were hiding to formulate a strategy. On this fateful night, war drums echoed against the rocks as the combined forces of the Crimson Brood, equipped with advanced technology, and the alien Juranth tribe, surrounded the ravine. They've surrounded us. Human, she whispered, trembling, as if foreseeing their doom.
Good, he growled. Now I don't even have to aim.
Each word made Zaya fall silent. The Hunter had a mysterious, tactical map that seemingly predicted the encirclement plan. This predicament revealed the core conflicts: Zaya against the overwhelming forces of the Crimson Brood and Juranth, and her suspicion of the Hunter's true motives. Was he working toward the benefit of the Sorel tribe, or merely manipulating them for his own agenda? The situation forced them into a temporary alliance for survival. Zaya discovered the Hunter's impressive strategic movements, but remained wary of his intentions. If we're to survive this, we need access to the ancient tactical library, the Hunter said, his voice low and gruff. The moonlight caught the edge of a thin scar that ran from his temple down to his jaw. Zaya's eyes narrowed. The library is sacred to my people. Only tribal leaders may enter. And how many tribal leaders will remain by morning if we don't find a way out of this trap? She couldn't argue with that logic. The war drums grew louder, echoing through the ravine, setting her teeth on edge. The Crimson Brood forces were drawing closer. Very well, she conceded reluctantly. But you touch nothing without my permission. The Hunter nodded once, the ghost of a smile crossing his face. Zaya led him through hidden passages, worn into the black rock by centuries of her ancestors' footsteps. The ancient tactical library of the Sorel was carved into the mountain itself, illuminated by bioluminescent fungi that cast an eerie blue glow across the walls. Holographic technology, ancient but still functional, projected three-dimensional maps and battle formations from bygone eras. As the Hunter studied the holographic displays, Zaya's mind drifted to their first encounter. She had been cornered by a Shadowclaw, a monstrous nocturnal predator with obsidian fangs and razor-sharp claws. Just as the creature lunged for her throat, a plasma blade had sliced through the darkness, severing the beast's head mid-leap. The Hunter had emerged from the shadows, his face hidden behind a tactical mask, eyes cold and calculating.
We don't fight gods. We fight mortal men, he had said as he helped her to her feet, his voice tinged with the bitterness of personal tragedy.
Now, watching him analyze the ancient battle formations with methodical precision, she wondered what had shaped him into the warrior who stood before her. "I've detected their plan," the hunter announced, interrupting her thoughts. His finger traced a pattern on the holographic display. "Their main target is the Sorel Fortress, specifically the atmospheric core." "The core?" Zaya's blood ran cold. "Why would they want that?" "Control the core. Control the atmosphere of Karosfer," he explained. "They could transform the entire planet into a complete dead zone, uninhabitable for anyone except those with their specialized breathing technology." Zaya stared at him in disbelief. "What do you intend to do with this information?" The hunter smiled cryptically. "Sometimes, you surround them with their own ignorance." He paused, studying her reaction. "I can show you a path to survival, but I need something in return. The ancient attack map with the embedded symbols passed down through 14 generations of your people." Zaya hesitated. The map was one of their most sacred artifacts, containing not just military strategy, but the spiritual wisdom of her ancestors. To share it with an outsider would be unprecedented. "And if I refuse?" "Then we improvise," he shrugged. "But our chances drop significantly." After careful consideration, Zaya agreed to the arrangement. Together with 4 young warriors, Kieran Nall, Elira Voss, Talon Griff, and Danya Sot, they journeyed to the Poison Spire, the source of the toxic river that cut through the landscape. There, they would craft Chiron bombs, specialized sound weapons capable of creating illusions or collapsing terrain. The journey was treacherous. Toxic winds lashed at their faces, burning their eyes and making each breath painful. The young warriors followed silently, their trust in Zaya evident in their unwavering loyalty. The hunter moved with practiced efficiency, scanning the horizon with a device strapped to his wrist. "The concentration of toxins increases as we approach the spire," he noted. "Your people have adapted remarkably well." "Necessity breeds adaptation," Zaya replied. "We've lived on Karos for generations since the terraforming failed. Our bodies have changed to survive." At the Poison Spire, a towering formation of crystallized toxins that glowed an unnatural green, they collected the raw materials needed for the Chiron bombs. The hunter demonstrated surprising knowledge of Sorel technology, helping Danya Sot configure the sonic resonators. "Where did you learn about Chiron technology?" Zaya asked suspiciously. "Knowledge is currency in my line of work," he answered vaguely. That night, as they camped in the shadow of the spire, a terrifying howl echoed across the landscape. Shadowclaws had attacked the Sorel village, capturing civilians for sacrifice. The news arrived via a breathless messenger, one of Zaya's scouts. Doubt gnawed at Zaya's confidence in the hunter's abilities. She confronted him directly. "You were once a mercenary for the Crimson Brood, weren't you? Which side did you betray?" The hunter stiffened. Slowly, he removed his tactical mask, revealing a face marked by hardship and pain. He turned his head, showing her a peculiar scar on his neck. 47 steps, as the Juranth called it, a torture method used on prisoners. "I was captured by the Juranth and forced to mine the atmospheric core," he explained, his voice hollow with remembered pain. "When I discovered what they planned to do with it, I vowed to betray both sides and find a way to eliminate the Crimson Brood's leadership." Zaya's trust wavered. Was this man worthy of being entrusted with the ancient map? As she contemplated this question, memories of her parents' murder surfaced. Their final words echoed in her mind. "Protect the Sorel bloodline, even if it costs your life. Never let the enemy take what is ours." She was torn between hatred for all outsiders and hope that the hunter might be the ally they desperately needed. The hunter led her to an ancient underground chamber, revealing the core nexus, a natural energy repository. As he manipulated the holographic AI controls, he simultaneously defended her from search patrols. They navigated through laser grids, infrared scanners, and ancient encrypted doorways. On their return journey, they were ambushed by an elite Juranth squad, trained in the pincer pattern combat technique. Zaya engaged in close combat, her blade dancing with lethal precision, while the hunter provided cover fire with his plasma daggers. After an intense battle, they escaped, but new reinforcements would arrive soon. "They're getting desperate," the hunter observed, wiping blood from a shallow cut on his forehead. "They wouldn't commit elite troops unless they were close to achieving their objective." "Then we must be ready," Zaya declared, her resolve hardening. "It's time to prepare for the final confrontation." The combined forces of the Crimson Brood and Juranth were determined to break through the last defensive line at the Sorel fortress. They deployed the Stormbringer, a weapon that generated electromagnetic storms, heating the air to unbearable temperatures and threatening the entire region. Zaya and the hunter gathered 50 elite warriors, including their 4 trusted companions, organizing them into 3 teams. Team A, led by Zaya, would defend the main fortress gate, using Kiran bombs to create illusions that would confuse the enemy forces, making it impossible to distinguish friend from foe. Team B, under the hunter's command, would infiltrate the Stormbringer control center, activate an anti-wave device, destroy the power source, and neutralize the weapon. Team C, consisting of the 4 supporting warriors, would attack the right flank, using mines to collapse part of the ancient wall, creating a diversion to draw enemy fire away from the other teams. In the moment before the battle began, Zaya turned to look at the hunter. He frowned, saying, "Now they don't even have to aim, because they believe we will shoot ourselves in the foot." His cryptic statement hinted that he had infiltrated and tampered with the ancient core, setting it to implode from within. The night of the seismic summons began with the hunter blowing a destruction melody on a Chiron symphony instrument. The sound waves resonated with both neural frequencies and the Stormbringer transmission stations, causing the fortress to tremble. Team A initiated the illusion assault at the fortress gate. The area erupted into chaos as enemy soldiers, confused by the Chiron bombs, turned against each other, unable to identify their own allies. Team C breached the wall, creating a fierce fire that revealed the tunnel to the Stormbringer engine. Team B infiltrated the enemy position, under the flashing lights of the Stormbringer's electrical storm. The hunter analyzed data through a hologram and entered the activation code for the anti-wave. The reverse pulse spread, causing the Stormbringer to implode with a silent explosion, returning the entire area to eerie quiet. The unexpected explosion occurred when the Crimson Brood thought they had gained the upper hand. The ancient core, adjusted by the hunter, reversed its effects, causing the Crimson Brood's technicians in the enemy camp to suffer pressure-reduced karaoke, their chests exploding into small fires that spread throughout the camp. At the Stormbringer engine room, Zaya and the hunter confronted the Crimson Brood's Chancellor Karvak, the enemy general equipped with a threatening energy armor. "You're just a wild girl," Chancellor Karvak sneered at Zaya. "I have the most advanced technology. You cannot win." "I am a daughter of Karosor," Zaya responded defiantly. "The essence of this bloodline will turn your armor to ash." The hunter whispered to Zaya, "Let me show you how to attack the blind spot, the reverse engine." In the decisive climactic moment, the hunter severed the energy bridge, causing Chancellor Karvak's armor to collapse and exposing the radiation core. Zaya lunged forward, slicing the core component in half. Chancellor Karvak exploded in a blinding flash of light. With the Stormbringer destroyed, the combined forces of the Crimson Brood and Juranth fell into disarray, losing their fighting spirit. The Sorel people rushed out to rescue prisoners, inadvertently killing many disoriented enemy soldiers in the process. "What did you do?" Zaya asked the hunter, trembling as she looked at Chancellor Karvak's scattered remains. The hunter smiled. "I just surrounded them with their own arrogance. They destroyed themselves without me having to fire a single shot. Most of the coalition forces surrendered, while the Juranth tribe, supposedly allies, fled toward their landing ships. In the aftermath, Zaya gathered her tribe and returned the ancient atmospheric core to the Interstellar Council to ensure it would not be misused. The hunter unexpectedly produced a final holographic letter from a flash drive implanted under his skin. A message from the Crimson Brood's leader declaring that a second catastrophe, Cascade Devastation, would be triggered upon his death. The Council confirmed they had received signals identifying the space region where the Cascade bomb would soon detonate. Zaya handed the flash drive containing the Cascade test site coordinates back to the hunter with an offer. "If you help us neutralize this catastrophe, I will help you end the Crimson Brood's tyrannical dynasty." The hunter nodded, his eyes distant, affirming, "My only real adversary is myself." From above, the coalition ships could be seen fleeing through Karasor 4's crimson sky. Below, the Serel people hurriedly repaired the fortress and cleared remaining bombs. Zaya placed her hand on the ancient fortress peak, gazing into the distance. "We have survived, but the real war has just begun." 2 months later, Zaya and the hunter boarded the scout ship, Artemis Dawn, leaving Karos 4. She wore a new Serel armor, her eyes determined. The hunter activated a holographic screen showing the Cascade bomb detonating in a star system 12 light-years away. He whispered, "We interrupted the Stormbringer, but my real enemy is laughing from afar." "Our new journey begins," Zaya said, her voice strong despite the weight of responsibility. "They will see us from a different angle, no longer surrounded prey, but an unstoppable flame." The first rays of dawn broke through the viewport, illuminating their faces as the Artemis Dawn accelerated toward the stars, leaving Karos 4 behind. In the ship's tactical room, Zaya spread the ancient attack map, 14 generations of knowledge embedded in its symbols. The hunter's eyes widened slightly as he recognized patterns that mirrored Earth's ancient warfare strategies. "Your ancestors were brilliant tacticians," he observed. "And now their wisdom guides us to new battles," she replied. "Tell me, hunter, what is your real name? If we're to face this cascade together, I should know who fights beside me." He hesitated, then removed his tactical mask completely. "Marcus Vale, Captain, Earth Defense Force, before the Crimson Brood destroyed my home colony. My wife and daughter were among the first casualties." Understanding dawned in Zaya's eyes. "Then we both fight for those we've lost. And for those who remain," Marcus added, gesturing to the star map where Karos 4 slowly receded behind them. As the Artemis Dawn entered hyperspace, neither of them knew what awaited at the Cascade coordinates, but both understood that their alliance, forged in the crucible of the Karos 4 battle, might be the galaxy's only hope against the coming storm. The stars streaked past the viewport, each one a potential battlefield or sanctuary. The ship's engines hummed with promise and warning, surrounded no longer by enemies, but by the infinite possibilities of space. Zaya and Marcus prepared for the next chapter of their war against the Crimson Brood, a war that would determine the fate of not just Karos 4, but countless worlds beyond. The night on Karos 4 had shown them both a fundamental truth. Sometimes, the most powerful position is not to avoid being surrounded, but to ensure that when the enemy thinks they have you trapped, they've actually trapped themselves. "They surrounded us," Zaya mused, watching the tactical display. "And now," Marcus replied with grim satisfaction, "we surround them." The Artemis Dawn vanished into the depths of space, carrying with it the legacy of the Serel warriors and the cold determination of a man who had nothing left to lose, a combination that would soon make the architects of the Cascade Devastation regret their arrogance. For on Karos 4, they had learned that true victory comes not from superior numbers or technology, but from turning an enemy's strength into their greatest weakness. And in that lesson lay the hope of worlds yet to be saved. The soft glow of the ship's engines illuminated the darkness of space. a small but determined light against the vast emptiness, much like the resistance against the Crimson Brood. Small, perhaps, but burning with purpose and resolve. The journey had just begun. Marcus studied the ancient Serel map, his fingers tracing the cryptic symbols that had guided the tribe for generations. These markings remind me of Earth's old naval warfare tactics, controlling channels of movement rather than territories. My ancestors believed that control of the flow, be it water, air, or people, was more important than controlling the land itself, Zaya explained. The atmospheric core was designed to regulate flow, not to dominate. And the Crimson Brood perverted its purpose, Marcus concluded, his jaw tightening. Zaya nodded. As they pervert all they touch. The tactical room fell silent, save for the hum of the engines. Kiran Nal, Zaya's trusted guard, entered with a report on their trajectory. "We're approaching the outer marker, Warlord," he said, addressing Zaya with respect. His muscular frame cast a long shadow across the tactical display. "Elira has detected unusual energy readings ahead." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Unusual how?" "Fluctuations consistent with quantum displacement," Kiran replied, his voice grave. "Similar to the readings before the Stormbringer activated on Kairos." Zaya and Marcus exchanged glances. The cascade devastation might be more immediate than they had anticipated. "Adjust course," Zaya ordered. "We need to observe from a safe distance first." As Kiran left to relay the command, Zaya turned to Marcus. "You've faced their technology before. What can we expect?" Marcus activated his wrist computer, projecting a simulation of the energy readings. "The cascade isn't just a bomb, it's a chain reaction. Once initiated, it creates a quantum ripple that destabilizes matter at the subatomic level. Planets don't explode, they disintegrate into their component particles." Zaya's expression remained stoic, but her eyes betrayed her horror. "And they would unleash this. Why?" "Resources," Marcus said flatly. "The process leaves behind concentrated rare elements, quantum-stabilized and ready for harvesting. The Crimson Brood isn't just destroying worlds. They're mining them in the most efficient and ruthless way possible." "Efficient?" Zaya's voice hardened. "They call genocide efficient?" Marcus deactivated the projection. "They don't see it as genocide. To them, non-brood life is a resource to be exploited, not a civilization to be respected." The ship shuddered slightly as it dropped out of hyperspace. Through the viewport, a distant star system came into view, unremarkable except for an unnatural purple haze surrounding the third planet. "We're too late," Talon Griff announced from the pilot's seat. The former Shadowclaw hunter's sharp eyes narrowed as he studied the readings. "The process has already begun." Danya Sot, their mechanical engineer, rushed into the tactical room. "The quantum signatures are off the charts. If this continues, the destabilization will spread to neighboring systems within days." Marcus moved to the forward console, his fingers flying over the controls. "There's still time. The cascade operates in phases. If we can disrupt the catalyst at the epicenter, we might halt the chain reaction." "How do we get close enough?" Zaya demanded. "The radiation alone would kill us." "Not with the right protection," Marcus replied, turning to Elira Voss, who had just entered with medical supplies. "Your hybrid physiology, part Kairos, part Alpha, can it withstand quantum fluctuations?" The medic hesitated. "Theoretically, yes. My cellular structure is more adaptable than pure human or Serel. But I've never tested it against something like this." "And the rest of us?" Zaya asked. Marcus revealed a small container hidden in his tactical vest. Inside were 5 neural implants, each glowing with a soft blue light. "Quantum stabilizers. Experimental technology I liberated from the Crimson Brood before escaping. They'll protect our molecular structure for approximately 6 hours." Zaya studied the devices suspiciously. "And you're only mentioning these now because they're single-use and potentially fatal," Marcus admitted. They force your body to operate out of phase with normal reality. Most people's minds can't handle the cognitive dissonance. A tense silence fell over the tactical room. Finally, Zaya reached for one of the implants. I'll take the risk. My people have already lost too much to the Brood's ambition. One by one, the others followed suit, each taking an implant with grim determination. Only Elira abstained, relying on her hybrid physiology for protection. As they prepared the ship for their approach to the affected planet, Zaya found Marcus alone in the weapons bay, checking his plasma daggers. These stabilizers, she said without preamble. You've used one before, haven't you? That's how you know about the side effects. Marcus didn't look up. Yes. And I still hear whispers sometimes, echoes of quantum realities where I made different choices. He finally met her gaze. But I survived. We all will. Zaya wasn't convinced. You're asking my warriors to risk more than their lives. You're asking them to risk their sanity. I'm asking them to help prevent the annihilation of countless worlds, Marcus countered, including what remains of Kara's fur. Before Zaya could respond, the ship's alarm blared. Talon's voice came over the intercom. Multiple contacts! Crimson brood vessels approaching from the system's edge. Marcus and Zaya rushed to the bridge. Through the viewport, they could see 3 sleek, predatory ships emerging from behind the system's outer planet. They must have detected our hyperspace signature, Danya reported, her hands dancing over the defense controls. Or they were expecting someone to investigate, Marcus suggested grimly. Either way, our timeline just got a lot shorter. Zaya took command immediately. Evasive maneuvers. Talon, take us into the asteroid field at the system's fringe. Danya, power up the stealth systems. As the Artemis Dawn banked sharply, diving toward the protection of the asteroid field, Zaya turned to Marcus. What's the new plan? He studied the tactical display, where the purple haze around the third planet pulsed ominously. We need a diversion. Something to keep the brood ships occupied while a smaller team infiltrates the Cascade epicenter. My thoughts exactly, Zaya agreed. Kieran, prepare the dropship. You'll pilot the Artemis Dawn as a decoy. The rest of us will take the infiltrator to the planet's surface. Kieran nodded stoically, though concern flickered in his eyes. Be careful, sister. The brood shows no mercy to infiltrators. Neither do we, Zaya replied, clasping his forearm in the traditional Sorel warrior gesture. As they prepared for the dangerous mission, Elira approached with medical injectors. These will help mitigate the neural impact of the stabilizers. I can't promise they'll prevent all side effects, but they should help maintain cognitive coherence. Marcus accepted the injection with a nod of thanks. As the medic moved on to the others, he activated his tactical mask's advanced scanning mode, studying the approaching brood vessels. Standard patrol configuration, he muttered. But there's something else. A larger ship hiding in the planet's shadow. Command class, from the energy signature. Zaya joined him at the viewport. You think the brood leadership is here to witness their handiwork? It would be consistent with their arrogance, Marcus confirmed. They enjoy watching worlds die. A cold smile crossed Zaya's face. Then they'll have the perfect view when we stop them. The infiltrator ship, little more than an armored transport pod, detached from the Artemis Dawn as it weaved through the asteroid field. Kieran executed a series of daring maneuvers, drawing the attention of the patrol vessels while the smaller craft slipped past, its stealth systems rendering it nearly invisible against the backdrop of space. As they approached the affected planet, the true horror of the Cascade devastation became apparent. The purple haze was not simply an atmospheric effect. It was the planet itself, beginning to dissolve at a molecular level. Continents rippled like water, mountains flowed like liquid, and oceans evaporated into shimmering clouds of particles. Ancestors preserve us, Talon whispered, his usual stoicism cracking at the sight. This is what they did to my colony, Marcus said quietly.
This is what I watched happen to my family.
Zaya placed a hand on his arm, a gesture of solidarity that surprised them both. Then, let's make sure it doesn't happen to anyone else. The neural implants activated with a cold fire that spread through their nervous systems. Reality seemed to waver, colors becoming more vivid, and sounds acquiring strange harmonics. Elira monitored their vital signs closely as they prepared to land near what her instruments identified as the Cascade epicenter. "Remember," Marcus cautioned as they donned atmospheric suits, "we have 6 hours at most. After that, the stabilizers fail and our molecular structure will begin to align with the planet's degradation. Then we work quickly," Zaya stated, checking the charge on her blade. "Talon, you're our escape pilot. Keep the infiltrator ready. Danya, you'll help Marcus neutralize the catalyst. Elira and I will secure the perimeter and handle any resistance." As the infiltrator touched down on the dissolving landscape, they emerged into a world gone mad. The ground beneath their feet felt simultaneously solid and liquid, reality itself seeming to protest the unnatural forces being unleashed upon it. In the distance, a towering structure rose above the chaos, a crimson brood installation, its architecture angular and threatening, surrounded by a shimmering force field that protected it from the destabilization effect. "The catalyst will be at the center," Marcus explained, his voice sounding strange through the quantum distortion. "A device about the size of a small shuttle, generating the initial wave that triggers the chain reaction." "And we just turn it off?" Danya asked skeptically. "We reverse its polarity," Marcus corrected. "Force it to generate a counterwave that will cancel out the cascade effect." "And if that doesn't work?" Zaya pressed. Marcus's expression was hidden behind his tactical mask, but his voice was grimly determined. "Then we destroy it, and hope the interruption is enough to break the chain reaction." "Hope," Zaya repeated. "Not much of a strategy." "Sometimes hope is all we have," Marcus replied. "It got us off Karas Fur, didn't it?" They approached the brood installation cautiously, using the quantum distortion to their advantage. To the facility's sensors, they would appear as nothing more than random fluctuations in the already unstable environment. The facility's outer defenses were minimal, the brood clearly not expecting anyone to survive long enough in the Cascade Zone to mount an attack. A single force field generator protected the main entrance. Danya examined it with professional interest. Standard brood encryption, but with quantum locks. Tricky, but not impossible. While she worked on bypassing the security, Zaya and Elira scouted the perimeter, discovering a maintenance access point that had been partially compromised by the destabilization effect. "Here," Zaya called softly. "We can enter through this breach." The maintenance tunnel was narrow and unstable, portions of its structure already beginning to dissolve into purple haze. They moved quickly, following Marcus's directions, based on his knowledge of standard brood facility layouts. As they navigated deeper into the installation, the effects of the neural implants intensified. Shadows seemed to move of their own accord, and occasional whispers, voices from quantum realities just adjacent to their own, brushed against their consciousness. "Stay focused," Elira advised, noticing their disorientation. "The implants are working, but they're straining your perception. What you're seeing and hearing isn't entirely real." "Comforting," Talon muttered, his hand never straying far from his weapon. They reached a central chamber where the catalyst device hummed with malevolent energy. It resembled a massive crystalline structure, pulsing with purple light that sent waves of destabilization rippling outward. "There it is," Marcus confirmed. "The heart of the cascade." Danya immediately moved to a control console, her expertise in mechanics making her the most qualified to understand the device's operations. "This is incredible. Horrible, but incredible. The technology is far beyond anything I've seen." "Can you reverse it?" Zaya asked tersely. Danya's fingers flew across the controls. "Maybe, but it's going to take time to understand the time we don't have," Marcus interrupted, pointing to a countdown displayed on the main console. We have less than 30 minutes before the cascade reaches its critical threshold. After that, not even shutting down the catalyst will stop it. A slow applause echoed through the chamber. Very astute, Captain Vale. You always did have a talent for stating the obvious. They turned to see a figure emerge from a side entrance. A tall, elegant woman in the distinctive crimson uniform of the brood's highest echelon. Her eyes gleamed with an unnatural light, suggesting extensive cybernetic enhancement. Admiral Serova, Marcus growled, his hand moving to his plasma dagger. The Admiral smiled coldly. I'm flattered you remember me. Though I must say, you look terrible. Those neural implants are such crude technology. Effective, but crude. Zaya stepped forward, her blade humming with energy. You're responsible for this abomination? Abomination? Serova laughed. My dear Savage, this is the pinnacle of resource extraction technology. Why spend decades mining a planet when you can simply dissolve it and collect the elements you need? So much more efficient. Efficient genocide? Zaya spat. You can't genocide resources, Serova replied dismissively. But enough chat. I'm actually glad you're here. Vale, you can witness the completion of what you tried to prevent on your home colony. Poetic, don't you think? Marcus tensed, ready to attack. But Zaya placed a restraining hand on his arm. The catalyst, she whispered. Focus on the mission. He hesitated, torn between vengeance and duty. Before nodding curtly, in a fluid motion, he threw a plasma dagger not at Serova, but at the control console beside her, causing a shower of sparks and temporarily blinding the Admiral. Now! He shouted. Chaos erupted in the chamber. Elira and Zaya engaged Serova and the guards who rushed in, while Marcus and Danya raced to the catalyst controls. Talon provided covering fire, his precision shots keeping reinforcements at bay. The battle was surreal, enhanced by the quantum distortion that made movements leave trailing after images and caused sounds to echo strangely. Zaya fought with the grace and ferocity of a Sorel warlord, her blade dancing through the air with lethal precision. Serova proved a formidable opponent, her cybernetic enhancements giving her inhuman speed and strength. You fight well for a primitive, she taunted Zaya. The brood could use warriors like you, if you were willing to evolve beyond your tribal superstitions. I'd rather die as I am than live as what you've become, Zaya replied, ducking under a blow that would have severed her head. At the catalyst, Marcus and Danya worked frantically to understand the controls. The system is locked, Danya exclaimed in frustration. We need an authorization code. Marcus glanced at Serova, still engaged in combat with Zaya. I think I know where to get one. He rejoined the fight, maneuvering to flank the Admiral. In a coordinated attack, Zaya drove Serova back with a flurry of strikes, while Marcus circled behind, attaching a small device to the base of the Admiral's neck, directly over her cybernetic implant interface. Serova screamed as the device sent an electrical surge through her systems. She stumbled, momentarily paralyzed as Marcus extracted the authorization codes directly from her neural network. Got it, he called to Danya, transmitting the codes to her console. Working on it, Danya replied, her fingers flying across the controls. The reversal sequence is initiating, but it's fighting me. The countdown continued its inexorable descent, 15 minutes remaining. Serova recovered, her face contorted with rage. You can't stop it. The cascade has progressed too far. Watch us, Zaya retorted, renewing her attack with even greater intensity. The chamber shook as the destabilization effect intensified. Parts of the ceiling began to dissolve into purple haze, and the floor beneath their feet trembled alarmingly. 10 minutes, Danya shouted above the growing chaos. Marcus joined her at the console, adding his knowledge of brood systems to her mechanical expertise. Together, They bypassed security protocols and rerouted power systems, forcing the catalyst to begin generating a counterwave. "It's working!" Danya exclaimed, as the purple pulse emanating from the catalyst began to shift toward blue. "The counterwave is forming!" Sarova, seeing her plan unraveling, broke away from her fight with Zaya and lunged toward the catalyst. "I'll destroy it first!" she screamed, pulling a disruptor pistol from her uniform. Elira, seeing the threat, threw herself into Sarova's path. The Admiral's shot caught her in the shoulder, spinning her around but giving Talon the opening he needed to put a precision shot through Sarova's cybernetic eye. The Admiral collapsed, but not before firing a wild shot that struck the catalyst's main control node. Alarms blared as the counterwave faltered. "No!" Danya cried. "The stabilization sequence is failing!" "Can you fix it?" Zaya demanded, rushing to Elira's side to assess her wound. "Not from here," Danya replied grimly. "The control node is fried. The only way to restart the counterwave is to manually recalibrate the catalyst core." "Which means?" Zaya pressed. "Someone has to enter the catalyst chamber and physically realign the quantum matrix," Marcus explained, his voice hollow. While exposed to the full force of the cascade effect, a heavy silence fell over the group, broken only by the wailing alarms and the countdown, now at 5 minutes. The stabilizers, Zaya realized. They would protect someone long enough to make the adjustments. "Maybe," Marcus agreed. "But whoever goes in isn't coming back out. The exposure would be too intense." Without hesitation, Marcus began removing his atmospheric suit. "I'll go." "No," Zaya protested, grabbing his arm. "There has to be another way." "There isn't," he said gently. "And it has to be me. I know the brood technology better than anyone." "I won't let you sacrifice yourself," Zaya insisted. "Not when we've come this far." Marcus smiled sadly. "Sometimes, the only way to win is to surround yourself with the enemy's greatest weapon." He glanced at the dying Admiral. "She was right about one thing. There is poetry in this. I couldn't save my family, but I can save countless others." Before Zaya could argue further, Marcus pulled her close, pressing his forehead to hers in the traditional Sorel gesture of respect between warriors. "Take care of them," he whispered, nodding toward the others. "And finish what we started. The brood won't stop with this world." With that, he turned and sprinted toward the catalyst chamber door. Danya, understanding his intention, activated the emergency override to grant him access. 3 minutes, she called after him. Marcus entered the chamber, immediately engulfed in the swirling purple energies of the cascade effect. Even with the neural implant, the pain was immediate and excruciating. Reality itself seemed to tear at his very atoms, trying to pull him apart molecule by molecule. Through sheer force of will, he dragged himself to the quantum matrix at the heart of the catalyst. His training as an Earth Defense Force captain had prepared him for many things, but not this. Still, he had come too far to fail now. With trembling hands, he began the recalibration process, aligning crystalline components and adjusting energy flows. Each movement was agony, but he persevered, driven by the memory of his family and the knowledge that he could prevent others from suffering their fate. Outside the chamber, Zaya and the others watched through a monitoring screen as Marcus fought against time and the laws of physics themselves. Elira, despite her injury, monitored his vital signs with growing concern. "His molecular cohesion is failing," she reported grimly. "The stabilizer can't compensate for direct exposure to the catalyst's energy." "How much longer does he need?" Zaya asked. Her voice tight with emotion she refused to acknowledge. "The recalibration is at 60%, Danya answered, watching the readouts. "Another minute, maybe less." "And the countdown?" 1 minute 40 seconds. Zaya made a decision. "Get to the infiltrator. Prepare for immediate evacuation." "What about you?" Talon asked, though he already knew the answer. I'm staying until he's done, Zaya replied, her tone brooking no argument. Now go! As the others reluctantly departed, Zaya remained at the monitoring station, watching Marcus's struggle. His form was beginning to blur around the edges as the cascade effect attacked his molecular structure. But his movements remained purposeful. Come on, Marcus, she whispered. Just a little longer. Inside the chamber, Marcus reached the final stage of the recalibration. His vision was failing, reality fragmenting into countless quantum possibilities. In some, he saw himself dying on Karos 4. In others, he watched his family live the lives they'd been denied. But in this reality, the only one that mattered now, he had one task left to complete. With the last of his strength, he aligned the final crystal and activated the quantum matrix. The catalyst hummed, its energy shifting from purple to blue as the counterwave formed and expanded outward. It's working, Danya's voice came over the comm. The cascade is reversing. Quantum stability is returning to the affected zones. Marcus smiled, though there was no one to see it. He collapsed beside the matrix, feeling his body beginning to dissolve as the neural implant failed. He was dimly aware of alarms silencing and the countdown freezing at 27 seconds. His last conscious thought was that it had been worth it. Worth the pain, worth the sacrifice, worth even this lonely death. To know that he had stopped the Crimson Brood from inflicting this horror on other worlds. As darkness claimed him, he thought he heard Zaya's voice calling his name. But that had to be another quantum possibility, one where things had ended differently. The facility shuddered as the counterwave expanded, neutralizing the cascade effect throughout the planet's atmosphere. Zaya raced toward the catalyst chamber, ignoring Danya's urgent calls to evacuate immediately. The door was sealed, but the control panel indicated the atmosphere inside was stabilizing. With desperate strength, she overrode the safety protocols and forced the door open. Marcus lay motionless beside the quantum matrix, his form still intact but deathly still. The blue energy of the counterwave washed over him, neither harming nor healing. Zaya rushed to his side, checking for signs of life. His pulse was faint, erratic, but present. The neural implant had burned out completely, leaving a small, charred circle at the base of his skull. "You fool," she murmured, gathering his limp form in her arms. Always having to be the hero. The facility's structural integrity was failing as the counterwave continued to expand. Zaya activated her comm. "Talon, I need immediate extraction, east entrance, and tell Elira to prepare for critical care." "Acknowledged," came the terse reply. "ETA 30 seconds. Zaya lifted Marcus with strength, born of desperation and determination. As she carried him through the disintegrating facility, she spoke to him, though she wasn't sure he could hear. "You don't get to die, Marcus Vale. Not after everything we've survived. Not when we still have a war to win." The infiltrator appeared through the swirling blue haze, hovering just above the dissolving ground. Talon at the controls. Danya at the cargo door, reaching out to help Zaya drag Marcus's unconscious form aboard. "Go!" Zaya shouted as soon as they were inside. The ship lurched upward, accelerating through the atmosphere as the brood facility collapsed behind them. Elira immediately went to work on Marcus, her hybrid physiology allowing her to channel healing energy directly into his damaged cellular structure. "His molecular cohesion is critical," she reported. "The neural implant protected him from complete dissolution, but the damage is extensive." "Can you stabilize him?" Zaya demanded. Elira's expression was grim. "I can try, but he needs more than I can provide here. He needs a regeneration chamber and quantum stabilization technology." "The Artemis Dawn," Danya suggested. Zaya shook her head. "Not equipped for this level of treatment," she thought quickly. "The Interstellar Council, their medical facilities on Nexus Station, have the technology we need." Nexus Station is 3 days away at maximum speed, Talon pointed out. Can he last that long? All eyes turned to Elira, who continued her healing efforts. With my assistance. Possibly. But it will be close. Then we make for Nexus Station, Zaya decided. Talon, contact Kieran. Tell him to rendezvous with us at the jump point. As they cleared the planet's atmosphere, they could see the remarkable transformation below. The purple haze of dissolution was being systematically replaced by the blue glow of the counterwave. Stability was returning, though the planet's surface would never be the same. The Crimson Brood vessels had scattered, clearly not expecting the cascade to be reversed. The command ship was nowhere to be seen, either destroyed in the chaos or fled when the operation failed. The Artemis Dawn appeared from behind the system's outer planet, showing signs of battle damage but still operational. Kieran's voice came over the comm, relief evident despite his usual stoicism. Warlord, it's good to see you. We thought you might not make it out. We nearly didn't, Zaya replied. Set course for Nexus Station, maximum speed. We have wounded. As the ships rendezvoused, and the infiltrator docked with the Artemis Dawn, Zaya remained beside Marcus as Elira continued her treatment. His condition stabilized slightly once they transferred him to the ship's medical bay. But he remained unconscious, his breathing shallow. Zaya found herself holding his hand, an unprecedented gesture for a Sorel warlord toward an outsider. Yet after what they had experienced together, Karos IV, the Stormbringer, and now the Cascade, he was no longer just an outsider. He was something else, something she wasn't ready to name. You survived Karos IV, she told his still form. You survived the Juranth torture chambers. You survived the Stormbringer. You'll survive this too. She squeezed his hand. That's an order, Captain. For 3 tense days, the Artemis Dawn raced toward Nexus Station, pushing its engines beyond recommended limits. Elira worked tirelessly, using her hybrid abilities to sustain Marcus's failing cellular structure. The others took turns assisting her, even Kieran, who had initially been suspicious of the Earth Warrior. During one of her rare rest periods, Elira found Zaya in the tactical room, studying the ancient attack map. You should sleep, the medic advised gently. Zaya didn't look up. I'll sleep when we reach Nexus. Elira hesitated, then said, You care for him. It wasn't a question, but Zaya answered anyway. He saved my people. He saved that planet. Of course I care what happens to him. That's not what I meant. Zaya finally met her gaze. I know what you meant, and it doesn't matter. What matters is completing our mission, stopping the Crimson Brood before they deploy another Cascade device. Elira nodded, accepting the deflection. For what it's worth, I think he'll survive. He's fighting hard. Good, Zaya replied, returning to the map. Because we're going to need every fighter we can get. Nexus Station appeared on their scanners early on the 4th day. A massive, wheel-shaped structure orbiting a neutral star, home to the Interstellar Council and its substantial medical and research facilities. The Council, alerted to their arrival and the nature of their emergency, granted immediate clearance and directed them to the medical docking bay. A team of specialists was waiting as Marcus was transferred from the Artemis Dawn to the station's Advanced Medical Center. Quantum cellular degradation, the lead physician diagnosed after a thorough examination. Severe, but not irreversible with our technology. We'll place him in a regeneration chamber immediately. How long? Zaya asked. The treatment? At least a week. Possibly 2. The physician studied her with professional detachment. You should prepare yourselves for the possibility that even if his body recovers, his mind may not. Exposure to quantum disruption on this scale often causes permanent psychological damage. Zaya's expression didn't change, but her hands clenched at her sides. He'll recover. Completely. The physician didn't argue, simply nodding and directing his team to begin treatment. Marcus was placed in a transparent chamber filled with a luminescent blue fluid that would accelerate cellular regeneration while stabilizing his quantum signature. As the medical team dispersed, leaving just one technician to monitor the equipment, Zaya approached the chamber. Marcus floated peacefully in the regenerative fluid, his features relaxed for the first time since she'd known him. "You'd better wake up," she told him quietly. "We still have a crimson brood to destroy." A throat cleared behind her. Turning, she found a tall, distinguished individual in the formal attire of the Interstellar Council. "Warlord Zaya Sorel?" they inquired. "I am Counselor Thorne. The Council would like to speak with you regarding the events at Karos 4 and the Cascade site." Zaya straightened, assuming the formal bearing expected of a tribal leader. "Of course, Counselor. Lead the way." With a final glance at Marcus, she followed the counselor from the medical center toward what would undoubtedly be a lengthy debriefing. There would be questions about the atmospheric core, the Stormbringer, the Cascade technology, all information the Council would need if they were to mount an effective response to the Crimson Brood threat. And Zaya would tell them everything, because now, more than ever, she understood what Marcus had meant on Chorus 4. Sometimes, you surround them with their own ignorance. The Crimson Brood had believed themselves untouchable, their technology undefeatable. They had surrounded Karos 4, only to find themselves trapped by their own arrogance. Now it was time to return the favor on a galactic scale. As she entered the council chamber, her resolve hardened. This was no longer just about saving her people or avenging Marcus's family. This was about ensuring that no one else would face the horror of watching their world dissolve around them. The Crimson Brood had surrounded worlds with destruction. She would surround them with justice. And when Marcus woke, because he would wake, she refused to consider any other possibility. They would finish what they started on Karos 4. Together. The stars outside Nexus Station continued their eternal dance, indifferent to the struggles of those who lived beneath their light. But within that vastness, a small flame of resistance had been kindled, a flame that would soon grow into a conflagration the Crimson Brood could not escape. For as Marcus had proven in the heart of the Cascade, sometimes the most powerful position was not outside the circle, but at its very center, where you could change the nature of the game itself. The journey had indeed just begun.